Also Jungs, nochmal für die, die hier neu am Start sind. Wir gucken uns zuerst ein Super People Video an, so was damals die Gründe gewesen sein könnten, weshalb das Game abgekackt ist und weshalb nicht.
Super People was arguably the best new Battle Royale of 2022 with endless potential, but due to a long string of stupid actions, the game...
Aber ich frage mich, der hat hier gerade gesagt, das ist arguably one of the best Battle Royales gewesen. Ich weiß nicht, ob ihr so im Battle Royale drin wart.
Super People was arguably the best new Battle Royale of 2022 with endless...
Ich hab ja nicht so viel eigentlich. Ne? Battle Royale Games gab es überhaupt bis. Aber das war eigentlich schon eins der besten, was es damals gab. Ne? King of Elysium gab es ja auch noch. Das ist krass. Game Royale ist ja alles tot gewesen am Ende des Tages.
Potential, but due to a long string of stupid actions, the game went from over 4 million players in the closed beta to on the verge of dying with less than 6,000 players concurrent at peak.
Alter, warte mal. Als ob es über 4 Millionen Spieler hatte in der Beta. Wenn du nicht mal wie 15.000, Junge.
Hours each day. I spent hours making a 25-page, over 10,000 word long document breaking down every single thing management did wrong, the wins they had, and how to save the game. Many people have no idea what the hell they're talking about, so I took hours out of my day to explain the rise and fall of Super People and if we can actually save it. I love Super People and I'm very passionate about the game, which is why I'm pissed off at how far the game has fallen and how many stupid ass decisions were made by management that could have been easily avoided. This video will explain all of the super complicated bullshit that has happened that has put Super People on life support. I want to start off this video by saying the first week of 2023, the game in its current state is actually very fun. If you quit a long time ago, I strongly suggest you hop on, grab some friends, head on over to first-person trios, and try out some games during the peak hours. The biggest issue the game has right now is low player base, thus increasing queue times and making the lobbies a little bit smaller. The looting, gunplay, movement are all good. The time to kill and ultimate level could use a little bit of work, but the new map POIs are great, and the game is a refreshing alternative to Warzone and Apex. Keep in mind, this video is all about the rise and fall of the game, so I need to go over the history of a lot of the major issues the game has had, that way we can avoid them in the future. For those of you who are unaware, the closed and open beta of the game was pretty good. The only main issue was the game kept shutting down and coming back again, so the hype and information surrounding the game was lackluster here and there, but the important thing was, during the open beta, there were over 4 million unique players that downloaded and played the game, so there was a lot of stuff going into the final beta, and there was a great chance for this game to work out if the...
Boah, das ist krass, als ob das so viele Beta-Spieler hatte. Und das ist ja total doof eigentlich, wenn man so lange Pausen immer. Close Beta hatte fucking 4,3 Millionen Spieler. Imagine. Meint ihr, Tarkov hatte jemals so viel? Never ever, oder? Und dann bei Release nur 46.000 Concurrent Players. Ein krasser, also das ist ja schon richtig krass. Irgendwann war es einfach 8. Oktober, 22. Dezember gelauncht, das war Early Access. Da blieb einfach das Game ist gestorben.
The shitty corporate overlords didn't make so many bad decisions that ultimately kicked this game in the nuts. The first massive blunder that Super People made was between the final beta and early access. For those of you who are unaware, the final beta had over $1 million in prize pools across 15 different tournaments. The game was pretty popular with very high peaks in player base, and the viewership on Twitch was at an all-time high. Super People partners were super active, and there was a lot of people involved and ready for this game's release. Here's the main issue though. This period of the final beta was between August 14th and 30th, and the early access was over a month away on October 11th. So not only did they let a lot of the hype die after spending all this money on tournaments, but they released the game in between Warzone 2 and Overwatch 2, two of the biggest games ever, and they decided to put the game right there, which is the worst possible day to release the game. We did peak at around 46,000 concurrent players on the release day, but had we released it about a week after the final beta, when there were no other games around, everyone was screaming for a new game, and there was no competition, we could have easily crushed over 100,000 concurrent players, and considering the final beta to early access changes were very minimal, this would have been the ultimate decision, and many partners, myself included, were begging the devs to do this. However, they did not have the power, and corporate did not let this decision go through, so that was the first major blunder. To make
Imagine, wusste ich gar nicht. Aber war das so, Marcel? Gab es in der Beta schon oder in der ganz am Anfang gab es da schon Dingens? Diese Turniere mit über 1 Million Preisgelder und sowas? Das ist ja richtig bescheuert. Also in der Alpha, Beta, was auch immer. Da nicht mal gecastet und gar nichts. Waren in der Final. Digga, wie lost. Macht ja gar keinen Sinn, in der Beta irgendwie über 1 Million Spieler zu haben und dann 1,5 Monate oder einen Monat zu warten, um das Game dann wieder zu Check ich ja jetzt erst. Imagine und dann beim Release, anstatt irgendwie 1 Million, was sie in der Beta-Phase hatten, nur noch 40.000 gleichzeitige Spieler. Das ist schon heavy.
Make things worse. The new player experience and phone number verification were major issues across the board. Many players are wrongfully banned due to a bug with their phone number not getting verified or verifying improperly, and this made it very difficult for new players to join. Not only did players
Stimmt, ich erinnere mich auch an diese Handynummer-Geschichte. Das war auch noch ganz, ganz komisch. Aber eigentlich super cool. So muss man sagen. Ich finde, es gab gar kein Cheater-Problem. Das ist dann natürlich durch dieses, wenn man mit Handynummer registrieren muss, relativ easy zu dingsen. Ich habe jetzt zu lange geritten, die Leute haben das Game vergessen. Kann sein. Vergessen weiß ich nicht, aber wahrscheinlich dann einfach andere Sachen gespielt, weil dann andere Sachen rauskamen. War so einem Overwatch damals anscheinend.
does not want to give their phone number to a massive Asian video game developer. Some were physically unable to do so depending on their country of origin, which made availability horrible for new players. Beyond this, new players would play against bots when they first started to help them learn the game. It's a good idea in theory, however, the issue is they never told new players that they were playing in bot lobbies because of this reason. So due to miscommunication once again, many players quit thinking the game had no real players and was
Echt? Das wusste ich jetzt auch nicht. Man hat einfach gegen Bots gespielt und man hat keine Benachrichtigung darüber bekommen. Ich weiß es, ich kann mich echt nicht mehr so krass erinnern. Weil das ist ja eines der Games, was mich so mit am meisten geprägt hat. Ich glaube, der Chat weiß, wie ich jeden Tag, ich weiß auch nicht, wieso ich Ketchup in der Hand habe, wie ich, wie ich jeden Tag auch im Stream nach diesem Piss-Game gegoogelt habe und nie dran geglaubt habe, dass es zurückkommt. Aber jetzt kommt es halt actually wieder.
filled with bots, even though this was far from the truth. Not to mention, this resulted in massive review bombing, saying that
Aber wieso, Kalle, wieso habt ihr es nach Release nicht nochmal gezockt? Das würde mich interessieren. Also ihr habt es in der Beta gezockt, hat euch wahrscheinlich auch Spaß gemacht mit den Jungs und dann nie wieder. Wieso? Ja, ich glaube, ich war sogar jemand, der ursprünglich gar keinen Bock auf das Game hatte. Ich fand es echt nicht ansprechend irgendwie am Anfang.
However, the issue is they never told new players that they were playing in bot lobbies because of this reason. So due to miscommunication once again, many players quit thinking the game had no real players and was filled with bots, even though this was far from the truth. Not to mention, this resulted in massive review bombing, saying the game was filled with bots. I did speak with the director of Super People, and this issue is slightly better now, but the damage was already done given this was right around the time of the release, so we hemorrhaged a lot of new players and missed out on a massive market. If you quit Super People specifically because of this issue, please come back and just know now that you'll only play a few bot games and then you will fight real players.
Aber ey, stell mal vor, da sagt einer in einem Video, please come back, there are no bots. Würdet ihr dann jemals das Game wieder anfassen? Wahrscheinlich nicht. Also ein bisschen sympathisch, weil er das Game retten wollte, ne? Aber irgendwie.
With bots. I did speak with the director of Super People, and this issue is slightly better now, but the damage was already done given this was right around the time of the release, so we hemorrhaged a lot of new players and missed out on a massive market. If you quit Super People specifically because of this issue, please come back and just know now that you'll only play a few bot games and then you will fight real players. Originally, you had to reach all the way to level 5 before you could get out of them, so it was very confusing for some players because this was never stated. Again, miscommunication was the culprit. Let's get
Ja, das stimmt schon. Also Kommunikation hatten die ja wirklich nicht drauf. Also 0,0. Da gab es ja gar keine Infos, nix.
continue the thread on miscommunication, and let's cover the hacking allegations and all the review bombs saying, oh my god, there's so many cheaters. First off, let's start by saying I've over 1,000 hours in the game, and I've talked to many veterans, and almost every veteran will tell you they've run into less than 20 cheaters, and most of them have been banned. So the question is, why are there all these reviews saying there's tons of cheaters? The answer is quite simple and extremely stupid. The replay system that shows you what happens on the kill cam is extremely buggy, extremely broken, and makes almost everyone look like a cheater. When somebody kills you and you go to watch the replay back, their crosshair could be aiming at the sky, in the ground, to the right, to the left, and yet they'll still be hitting all headshots or body shots on you. The whole replay system is atrocious and makes everyone look like they're cheating. So new players would join, they get dunked on by a normal player or a good player and instantly assume, oh my god, they must be cheating, and then they would leave a bad report. Combine this with people being able to change the flag of their country to anything they want. A lot of NA players change them to China and other Asian countries, and since people are racist, they're like, oh my god, I'm dying to Asian cheaters, when in reality
Das beschreibt aber so gut unsere Gaming-Kultur, ne? Ich könnte jetzt wahrscheinlich, wenn wir jetzt unsere fucking Namen in Tarkov irgendwie zu irgendwelchen chinesischen Zeichen umlegen würden, wir würden wahrscheinlich auch so viele Reports kassieren. Einfach nur, weil man gut ist in diesem Game. Das ist aber, ich finde, Das machen wir aber generell viel zu oft oder sehr viel. Ich ja selber auch, das merkt man ja. Wollt viel zu schnell Cheater. Und das ist so heftig. Imagine, wir könnten den Tag auf eine fucking chinesische Flagge nehmen, Junge. Oh, eigentlich wäre es mal witzig.
They're just bad at the game, and they died to an average player, and because of the spectator system was bugged, it looked like they were cheating. Beyond this, a lot of new players don't understand the abilities in the game. Like Seeker, he has a heartbeat that tells you the location of an enemy in a close radius, so if they die to a Seeker that pre-fired him, they're like, oh my god, Seeker has wall hacks, when in reality it's just his ability. So combine these two major issues together and wrap that up with all the miscommunication, and you got this massive review bombing saying, oh my god, there's hackers everywhere. They could have disabled the replay system at any time because it does more harm than good. They did not. They could have fixed the replay system, which would have taken a lot more work. Or my biggest suggestion was just add a disclaimer and let people know, hey guys, our replay system's bugged. Not everyone's cheating. And many of these reviews might have been removed, honestly. So hopefully, if you guys are listening to this now and you left a bad review because of this exact reason, you go and change that because it's untrue. There really is not a big cheater problem in this game. There's less cheaters in this game per player than Apex, Warzone, Overwatch, all these other games.
Das stimmt, aber kann man jetzt im Nachhinein die Reviews noch angucken? Ich sehe das ja jetzt erst, Junge. Hier hat einer geschrieben, am fucking Juni, das ist ja letztes Jahr gewesen, 23, Open Super People 1, über 100 Seiten, wollen die mich verarschen? Ne, 99 Seiten. Ich kacke doch ab. Und jeder schreibt nur Plus. Ja, diese Leute, ich verstehe nicht, also das Community hinter diesem Game ist wirklich krass, wie die Leute das einfach zurückhaben wollen. Vor allem ist auch so eine Masse, die wollen einfach das Game wieder haben. Das ist so witzig. Eigentlich ja cool, aber naja, ich will die Rezension sehen. Bitte. Kann ich das sehen? Auf der Shop-Seite gibt es leider nicht mehr.
I will say, yes, there are cheaters, and yes, some of these reports are warranted, but given how few cheaters you run into that are actually cheating, this should not be as big of a deal as it is, and most of it was fueled by racism, miscommunication, and just general stupidity and arrogance. Now let's continue our thread on stupidity and talk about how poorly the cosmetic and skin system was handled. When the cosmetic system was introduced in the early access, players had to buy diamonds from the shop for real life money, trade those diamonds in for exploration tickets, which they could then rent a skin for 3, 7, or 30 days depending on which tile they selected and how lucky they were. Once players had 100 days in total, they could claim one item permanently in their inventory. This system was confusing, poorly explained, and expensive, and it
Stimmt, Junge, daran erinnere ich mich auch noch. Du musstest einfach, das war Glücksspiel hoch 8 Millionen Skins zu kaufen, glaube ich. Das war richtig komisch. Boah, wie war denn das nochmal? Man musste dann so auf komische, wie so ein Puzzle auf Dinger drücken, ne?
was criticized by the community as gambling. The system was fixed a few days later after its release, but the damage had already been done and very widespread, and many players quit the game permanently because of this reason. The developers later transferred this system and made it so that it was used with in-game gold instead of real-life diamond money, which was a much better decision overall because now players can grind for in-game gold and get free skins. Another big issue that was separate and was only recently fixed is that you could actually buy the same skin multiple times, and unless you contacted support, you would never get your money back. In my many gaming titles under my belt, I have never run into a game where when I bought a skin, I could buy it again despite already owning the item. This was a major oversight, and there's no telling how many players got screwed over by this. I will say if you contact support because this happened to you, you will get your money back, but just in general, this is just another major L, and I don't know how this was overlooked. So in summary, you had to basically gamble in order to unlock skins permanently, and nobody liked the system whatsoever. And although they got rid of it, the game got review bombed because of it, and many people quit due to this dog shit system. After you watch this video all the way to the end, if you want more details on this along with every other topic covered here and some that you missed, be sure to read that document. It's massive, it took a long time, and it's totally awesome. Now let's move on. The balancing in early access was decent across the board with the exception of one massive elephant, the firearms expert. For those of you who do not know, this
der Firearms-Expert, ich habe den ja todesabused, ne? Aber das war der Junge, der einfach am meisten Spaß gemacht hat. Weil du konntest einfach einen Knopf drücken, dann ist so eine riesen Bubble um einen herum entstanden und alle da drin waren verlangsamt. Nicht nur das Movement, auch die Feuerrate von den Gegnern hat sich verlangsamt. Während du aber komplett normal warst. Das hat dir natürlich übertrieben den krassen Vorteil gegeben. Und einfach alle auseinandergerissen. Und der wurde, wer weiß wie lange nicht genervt. Total dumm. Als ob du jemanden eine vollautomatische Nuke in die Hand geben würdest, nonstop.
class was insanely overpowered and terrorized the entire lobby of every single server for most of early access. This character did not get a significant nerf or disabled for over a month straight, and during this time we lost about 50% of the total player base that was playing the game at the time. And beyond that, we also lost about 50% of the streamers and partners that were playing this solely because of this reason. I can confirm this because I talked to a lot of the partners, and this is the main reason they quit. So had they just disabled this character, maybe we could have kept like 50% of our player base, but they didn't do that, and nobody knows why. And although they apologized, it doesn't help us at all. It was like the worst decision ever, and it was such an easy fix, and yet it went unchecked, and we lost about half of the player base due to an overpowered ass character that ruined the entire game. Now let's talk.
Aber ob das jetzt so ein Grund war, dass Hälfte der Spielerbase gegangen ist, meinst du was? Ich kann es nicht beurteilen. Weil ich habe mich damals auch darüber aufgeregt, dass der nicht genervt wurde, aber ob das jetzt der Grund dafür war, dass sich 50% der Spielerbase abhaut, I don't know. Um ehrlich zu sein.
Talk about some Oceanic servers. They were promised to players before early access. I can also confirm that these servers were built and ready to go long before early access even happened. But the game failed to deliver on that promise to have servers for the Oceanic region, which caused more review bombing and damaged trust with the community. I suggested to the dev team that they should turn on the server for at least a month and give players a concurrent player base to reach in order to leave the servers on forever. There is no way that they would lose on more than 50% of the revenue on this venture, not to mention it would be great publicity and marketing for the game as a whole, but they did not do this. They could have taken money.
Ja, also erstmal nochmal zum Firearms, ne, zurück. Der war zu OP, das stimmt schon, aber dadurch, dass du, wenn du jetzt einen Squad gespielt hast, nur einen mit dem haben konntest, fand ich das jetzt am Ende des Tages nicht so schlimm. Im Solo, ja, hat man es gemerkt, weil die meisten entweder Shotgun Master oder Firearms Expert gespielt haben, aber keine Ahnung, im Squad hat das jetzt eigentlich keinen Unterschied gemacht, um ehrlich zu sein, ob der zu stark ist oder nicht, weil da hat jeder einen im Team gehabt. Aber das war ja das Geile, weil war immer ein bisschen was anderes. Ja, wobei der wurde aber trotzdem mal zu 80% gepickt, eigentlich.
From the tournaments they held in December that were virtually useless, and did this instead, and it would have been so much better across the board. However, we will never know. The Oceanic players won't play without a server, and they won't turn on the server unless they have players. So it's a never-ending Mexican standoff that I hope ends soon because it's just getting ridiculous. I go a lot more into the depth on the marketing fails in the document linked below, so go check that out after you watch this video all the way to the end. But they did spend a ton of money on tournaments in the final beta, and then didn't release the game, as you know, so they wasted that money. They also spent a lot of money on big name creators like Shroud and Timmy, who stopped playing the game and then shit talked it a little bit afterward. Not to mention, they both have a similar audience, so the money they spent for each of these could have been spent in so many better places. They also didn't broadcast any of these tournaments during the $1 Million series, which they could have easily gotten 5 to 10,000 concurrent viewers easily by embedding the broadcast on the GG launcher, which would have really built up hype and united the community as well, but they didn't do that either. So
das verstehe ich auch nicht, diese Turniere. Ey, die haben so viel Geld verschwendet und Zeit in diese Turniere, das ist so absurd. Die haben ja jedes Wochenende gab's in jedem, also First Person, Third Person, Duo, Solo etc. pp. Gab's immer Turniere mit 10.000 Euro Minimum für Erst, hast du nicht gesehen? Jeden Tag? Nee, zum Ende hin nur am Wochenende. Und das war so absurd. Das wurde nicht gecastet. Gar nichts. Die haben ja nichts genutzt. Stell dir mal vor, die haben das gecastet. Stell dir mal vor, die hätten die Scheiße gecastet. Wie richtig lost. Also, keine Ahnung, macht doch wenigstens von mir aus sogar weniger Turniere, castet die aber ordentlich. Mit einem ordentlichen Punktesystem. Das Punktesystem war auch mega scheiße. Weil du hast keine Punkte für Kills bekommen. Am Ende hat nur deine Platzierung gezählt. Da ist natürlich jeder in irgendeiner Ecke gesessen. Und obwohl es ja PUBG gab es ja. Also PUBG hatte ja gut Punkteverteilungssysteme und hast du nicht gesehen. Aber die haben das einfach null umgesetzt. Für Kills hast du 0 Punkte bekommen. Das heißt, du saßt nur in deiner Ecke. Und ganz am Anfang, da weiß ich noch, da haben die in Squads, haben die Leute sich Medics gedroppt und einer ist einfach außerhalb der Zone geblieben, hat sich die ganze Zeit geheilt, weil die Zone nicht genug Schaden gemacht hat. Auch mega weird. Einfach komische Entscheidung.
Long story short, they didn't do the best type of marketing for cheap, and they did the worst type of marketing and overpaid for it. Read the document for more info, but let's keep on going and hop into the December update. The game was on life support long before the December update came out, so for those of you saying, oh my god, this update killed the game, you're just wrong, period. Removing crafting was sad for me, but it really isn't needed with the new gameplay style, and I did suggest a fix for this in my long document, so be sure to check that out after this video. They definitely had a good chance to revive the game a bit with the Super People 2 update, but due to more bad planning by management, they fumbled the bag yet again. I got to try out the update ahead of time along with some of the other more important partners, and I gave gave them a very long document of feedback and important fixes to do before the game launched, and they didn't implement anything before the update went live. They did do some of the more important things after the update launched in the first week, which was a good thing, but they could have just delayed the update by 1 week and did all this stuff before the patch went live, thus saving us so many lost players. Many players came back to give the game a second chance, but instantly left for those reasons I told them in my feedback. You can see the full list of feedback in the document below, but much of it was just no-brainer stuff, like not giving the Gatling gun more damage than a mythical M4 and twice the fire rate on a character that's level 4 30 seconds into the game. That's just a dumbass idea, and that was one thing that they could have fixed, but they literally let that go through and go unchecked for at least 3 days, and then another 3 days after that. I even discussed some of these massive changes and issues in my last video, then I uploaded that video before the update went live. Many people quit during this period, which resulted in more review bombing and a ton of negative reviews, which, as you see, this has become a massive pattern and why we have a lack of so many new players. I just want to briefly go over the game mode changes that were made during the December update as well. As many of you know, duos got removed, which is very sad, and 4-mans ended up going to 3-man trios. I would just like to say, if you are a 4-man crew that got split up because of this change, I sympathize for you and you have a right to complain. However, if you
Ich glaube, dann haben wir doch gar nicht mehr gespielt, oder? Haben wir die Trio-Phase, haben wir schon aufgehört, glaube ich mal. Duos entfernt und Squads entfernt, habe ich das noch im Hinterkopf. Aber auch eine krasse, drastische Maßnahme, dann weiß man schon, dass es down geht,
If you did not have a tight-knit 4-man crew, there's no reason to complain about this change. Trios is better in the new version of the game with the faster movement, gunplay rotations, etc. Trios encourages more fights, the games are faster, which means faster queue times, more games per day. It's better than squads in literally every aspect in this new version of the game. So you have no reason to complain about going from 4-mans to trios unless you had a 4-man that was split up. But overall, trios is better for the game in general. Also, duos leaving is very sad, but the game cannot support 3 game mode types with how few players there are. So if you want duos to come back, be sure you tell your friends to play, because the more players we have, the more game modes we can have in the future. The battle pass system sucks. Beyond all the horrible failures that you've seen throughout this very long video, you would think that the battle pass could be some type of saving grace. Yes, the battle pass is pretty cool, it's a decent price and the skins are awesome.
An den Battle Pass kann ich mich gar nicht erinnern. Das war da wahrscheinlich scheiße, um ehrlich zu sein.
But that's not the problem. The problem is the horrible experience system. You can only get 15,000 experience per day, which translates over to a level and a half in the battle pass. The battle pass is 50 levels in total, so it takes quite a large amount of days to actually complete it. This system screws over anyone that wants to play at their own pace, especially those who can't play during the weekdays and only on the weekends. This whole entire system is horrible. It does not benefit a single person, and the experience cap should 100% be removed, or at the bare minimum, the cap should be doubled and experience should carry over each day instead of resetting every 24-hour period. This is not good for anyone, especially the game that is having players quit due to this issue, not to mention leaving more bad reviews if we didn't have enough stupid ass bad reviews. Before I hop into whether or not the game is going bankrupt, I just want to throw this one little thing in. Adding proximity chat to the game would go a long way in saving it. A game like Warzone gets over 1 billion views alone on TikTok every single day just from proximity chat content. Adding it back in.
Boah, ich kann es nur sagen, selbst das. Ja, das stimmt schon. So Proximity Chat ist übertrieben geil, auch in Tarkov. Ihr wisst es ja bei mir. Ist einfach voll Potenzial, das ist so krass geil. Und Clip-Potenzial ja dadurch auch. Und das Problem ist, was wir Europäer haben, in Europa wird es kaum genutzt. Ich weiß nicht, wieso. Die Leute sind einfach zu scheu zu reden. Die trauen sich nicht. Ich habe keine Ahnung. Barriere hin oder her.
Into the game would make a lot more opportunities for people to make content, get a lot of easy viewership, and it would just be fun for everyone in the community. Yes, it comes with toxicity here and there, but that's why you have a mute button and you can ban people from using it. Only veterans will remember, but proximity chat actually used to be in the game and it was an absolute blast, and I hope that they do end up bringing that back into the game. Another thing before I get into the last point about bankruptcy is please use the hashtag #SaveSuperPeople on Twitter whenever you upload a new video. I'm going going to be spamming that as well. Post all your best and funniest moments from super people so we can drum up just a little bit of publicity, and like every single post that you see under the hashtag #SaveSuperPeople. Now, is the game going bankrupt? And here's the honest truth. As many of you know, there was a leak from an anonymous person with the source of, "Trust me bro," that stated the game was going bankrupt and dying in February. This is not confirmed by any means, so I suggest you take that with a grain of salt. I will say, although the game is in a good place now in terms of gameplay, and it is way more fun than a lot of the previous updates, the player base is still declining rapidly and they are running out of money. This game still has an absurd amount of potential and the dev team is quite excellent. The biggest thing holding it back is poor communication, an absurd amount of misinformation, and slow patching caused by bad management and too many departments slowing things down. It is hard to say if they will go bankrupt or be bought out by a bigger developer. Either way, the game needs help. I will stand by the game and play it until it officially dies, but I pray every day for it to turn around. This game genuinely does need a lot. I go over all the changes needed in the massive document, so be sure to check that out down in the description. But in the meantime, I will leave you with this. Some of the biggest things that we need is a big shakeup in management. As shown by the player charts and the last 10 minutes of this video, management has dropped the ball over and over and over and over again. The development team cannot release patches due to management and all these departments slowing things down, so something needs to give. Beyond that,
Ein Tipp für was, Ellos? Auf was bezogen?
need way faster decision making. Example, the XP cap on the battle pass. Not a single person has said a single thing positive about communication. Updates.
Ja, also ein paar Sachen muss man dem recht geben, Wir machen einen Kommentar. Nearly 3 years later, we finally did it. Super people is coming back. Ja, in vielen Sachen hat er recht. Aber eigentlich bei fast allem.